The air hung thick with the scent of myrrh and fear. Beyond the heavy, gilded doors of the throne room, the court held its breath, a collective gasp stifled by the weight of royal demise. The pharaoh was dead, his reign abruptly severed, leaving a fragile boy king to inherit a kingdom teetering on the precipice of chaos. Whispers slithered through the gilded halls, sharp as obsidian blades, questioning legitimacy, challenging lineage. Yet, in the shadows of the royal nursery, a different kind of power was already at work. A woman, cloaked in grief yet radiating an unyielding resolve, moved with the quiet grace of a predator, her hands already shaping the destiny of Egypt. Her tears were for a lost husband, yes, but her resolve was for a threatened dynasty. She knew the eyes of every ambitious vizier, every scheming priest, every disgruntled general, were fixed on the vulnerable throne. But they underestimated the silent strength that had always and would always safeguard the heart of Egypt. They did not see the women who ruled from the shadows. The first chill of dawn had barely touched the eastern horizon, painting the sky in hues of bruised violet and faint rose, when the news, a serpent of despair, coiled itself around the great house. Pharaoh Shepscaf, builder of the Mastabat el-Pharaon, the very embodiment of divine kingship, was no more. His spirit, it was said, had ascended to join the circumpolar stars, leaving behind a void that threatened to swallow the land of Kemet whole. In the quiet, opulent chambers of the royal palace, Queen Kentkaz, his widow and mother to the child heir, felt a cold dread seep into her bones, far deeper than the customary grief. You, as a witness to this pivotal moment, would have seen not a woman consumed by sorrow, but one whose mind, even amidst the shock, was already calculating, assessing, planning. Her hands, though trembling slightly, did not falter as they smoothed the linen over her deceased husband's face, a final, intimate gesture of love and farewell. But beneath the veil of widowhood, a steel resolve hardened her gaze. The boy, her son Userkaf, was too young for the immense burden of kingship. A mere child, still clinging to the comfort of his wet nurse's breast, he represented both the future of Egypt and its most profound vulnerability. The old kingdom, though seemingly monolithic, was a delicate edifice, its stability dependent on an unbroken line of divine succession. Any crack, any hesitation, could plunge the land into the abyss of civil strife, a chaotic tapestry of competing claims and bloody ambition. Kentkaz knew this truth with an instinct born of royal lineage and years spent observing the intricate dance of power within the court. She knew the names of the ambitious nomarchs, the influential priests of Ra, the seasoned generals who commanded the armies. Each, in their own right, possessed the potential to either uphold or dismantle the fragile peace. Her first act was not one of public mourning, but of strategic silence. The death of a pharaoh, especially one without a clear, adult successor, was a moment pregnant with danger. The initial hours were critical. Information like water could either quench thirst or drown the unwary. Kentkaz moved with a quiet urgency, her trusted handmaidens and loyal scribes her only confidants. She dispatched swift, discreet messengers to her most ardent supporters within the court, men and women whose loyalty had been forged in years of shared counsel and mutual interest. To the powerful vizier, Tahotep, a man of immense wisdom and unwavering loyalty to the Tenite line, she sent a single cryptic message: "The sun has set, but the dawn must come. Prepare the vessel." Tahotep, understanding the coded urgency, immediately began to secure the palace guard, ensuring that no unauthorized access or communication could disrupt the delicate transition. The palace, usually a hive of activity, now felt like a tomb, its silence punctuated only by the hushed whispers of servants and the distant, rhythmic wailing of professional mourners already gathering outside the royal enclosure. Kentkaz, however, had no time for public displays of grief. Her grief was a private agony, a luxury she could not afford. Her focus was singular: to ensure Userkaf's ascension was swift, undisputed, and perceived as divinely ordained. This was not merely about her son. It was about the very fabric of Ma'at, the cosmic order that governed Egypt. Her chambers became the silent war room. As the morning progressed, a select few were ushered in, their faces etched with concern, their voices hushed with reverence and apprehension. The chief royal steward, the high priest of Ptah, and the keeper of the royal seal, men of immense power and influence, their allegiance is crucial. Kentkaz greeted them not with tears, but with a calm authority that belied her recent bereavement. Her voice, though soft, carried the weight of generations of queens. "The gods have called Shepskaf," she began, her eyes meeting each man's gaze in turn, assessing their reactions, probing for weakness or dissent. "But the divine lineage endures. Userkaf, son of the falcon, is the chosen one." You standing there would feel the tension in the room, thick and palpable. The unspoken question hung in the air: was Userkaf truly the son of Shepskaf? Or was there a more complex, perhaps even controversial lineage at play? The Old Kingdom was a time of consolidation, but also of subtle power shifts. Kentkaz herself held the enigmatic title, Mother of Two Kings of Upper and Lower Egypt, a unique appellation that hinted at a deeper, more intricate role in the shaping of the Fifth Dynasty. Some scholars would later argue she might have even ruled as a king herself, a pharaoh in all but name, bridging the Fourth and Fifth Dynasties. But in this moment, her power was wielded from the shadows, through the legitimacy of her child. The high priest of Ptah, a man whose face was a roadmap of ancient lines and deeper wisdom, cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, the people seek assurance. The omens, they must be clear." Kentkaz nodded slowly. "And they shall be. The priests of Ra at Heliopolis have already been consulted. The sacred texts speak of a new dawn, a renewed strength for Kemet, guided by the progeny of the sun god himself." Her words were carefully chosen, weaving a narrative of divine mandate that resonated deeply with the Egyptian psyche. The cult of Ra was ascendant, and aligning Userkaf with this powerful deity was a masterstroke. It subtly shifted the focus from the potentially ambiguous paternal lineage to a more potent, divine parentage. But words alone were not enough. Action was required. Kentkaz knew the importance of ritual, of spectacle. The coronation of a pharaoh was not merely a political event, it was a cosmic reaffirmation. She began to outline the intricate ceremonies, the purification rites, the offerings to the gods, the procession down the Nile. Every detail was meticulously planned, designed to convey an image of unwavering stability and divine favor. She dictated the inscriptions for the royal decrees, ensuring Userkaf's name was etched with the full titles of kingship, leaving no room for doubt. "The royal Ka must be preserved," she declared, her voice firm. "The monuments of Shepskaf will be completed, and his journey to the Duat will be secured. But the living king must also be honored. Userkaf's reign begins now." Her strategic brilliance lay in her understanding of perception. In ancient Egypt, legitimacy was not merely inherited, it was created through ritual, narrative, and the subtle manipulation of belief. Kentkaz orchestrated a narrative that painted Userkaf not just as the son of the deceased pharaoh, but as the direct descendant of Ra, a new lineage blessed by the most powerful deity. This move was not just a political tactic, it was a theological revolution, subtly shifting the divine patronage of the kingship. Throughout the day, Kentkaz moved like a specter through the palace, her presence a calming yet forceful influence. She oversaw the embalming preparations for Shepskaf, ensuring the sacred rites were performed with utmost precision, for a pharaoh's journey to the afterlife was as crucial as his reign on earth. At the same time, she personally supervised the preparations for Userkaf's investiture. She chose the finest linen for his royal garments, selected the most potent amulets to protect him, and even dictated the specific prayers to be chanted by the priests during the ceremony. Her attention to detail was unwavering, her mind a whirlwind of practicalities and profound spiritual concerns. You, if you had observed her, would have noticed the way she interacted with the women of the royal household. the chief stewardesses, the overseers of the royal children, the priestesses of Hathor. These women, often overlooked in the grand narratives of pharaohs and viziers, formed a powerful interconnected network within the palace. They controlled access, managed resources, and, most importantly, held influence over the royal children. Khentkaus leveraged these relationships, securing their loyalty through a combination of respect, subtle favors, and the shared understanding of the precariousness of their positions should the dynasty falter. She understood that power flowed not just from the throne, but through the veins of the household itself. As evening descended, casting long dancing shadows across the palace courtyards, Khentkaus finally allowed herself a moment of quiet contemplation. She stood by a window overlooking the Nile, its dark waters reflecting the nascent stars. The weight of the day, the immense pressure of securing a dynasty, settled upon her shoulders. She was not a warrior queen, leading armies into battle. Her battlefield was the court, her weapons were diplomacy, foresight, and the unwavering belief in her divine right to protect the royal line. She thought of her own mother, Queen Merseyk III, a woman of formidable will who had navigated the complexities of court life with grace and steel. Khentkaus carried their legacy, the silent strength of generations of royal women who understood that true power often resided not in the crown itself, but in the hands that shaped the one who wore it. The following morning the sun rose, bright and uncompromising, dispelling the lingering shadows of grief. The grand procession for Userkaf's coronation began. The streets of Memphis thronged with people, their anxiety slowly giving way to awe as the sacred barges moved down the Nile, carrying the boy king and his retinue. Userkaf, adorned in the regalia of kingship, looked small and vulnerable amidst the grandeur, but his presence was undeniable. Beside him, subtly guiding his movements, whispering reassurance, was Khentkaus. Her presence was a silent declaration, a visible manifestation of the power behind the throne. As the high priest placed the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt upon Userkaf's head, a collective cheer erupted from the assembled crowds. The continuity was preserved. Ma'at was restored. But for Khentkaus the work was far from over. The coronation was merely the beginning. She would spend the coming years as the true regent, educating her son, guiding his decisions and consolidating the power of the new dynasty. She would establish her own mortuary complex, a testament to her unique status, depicting her with the royal beard, an unprecedented symbol of her kingly authority. Her title, Mother of the King of Upper and Lower Egypt, Daughter of the King of Upper and Lower Egypt, Mother of the King of Upper and Lower Egypt, would echo through time, a testament to her pivotal role. She bridged two dynasties, ensuring the transition not through overt rule, but through the silent, unyielding force of her will, a true architect of succession from the shadows. The reign of Userkaf, and indeed the entire Fifth Dynasty, would stand as a monument to her unseen hand, a testament to the enduring power of the women who shaped Egypt's destiny. You, witness to this silent revolution, would understand that the greatest power is often the one that operates unseen, guiding the currents of history from the depths of the shadows. Centuries later, the new kingdom dawned, an era of unprecedented imperial might, of colossal temples and triumphant armies. Yet even as pharaohs like Thutmose III carved an empire from the lands of the Near East, the delicate balance of power within the palace remained a constant, intricate dance. Here, in the opulent heart of Thebes, Queen Tai, the great royal wife of Amenhotep III and mother of the enigmatic Akhenaten, exemplified the art of ruling from the shadows, her influence a serpent's whisper in the ear of a mighty king. You, observing the court of Amenhotep III, would have seen a pharaoh radiant with divine authority, a monarch whose reign was marked by peace and prosperity, a golden age. But look closer, beyond the dazzling sunlight reflecting off gold and alabaster, and you would perceive the subtle currents of influence emanating from the queen's apartments. Tai was no ordinary queen. Her lineage, though noble, was not purely royal. Her father, Yuya, was a powerful provincial notable and her mother, Thuya, a priestess. This seemingly humble background, however, belied the immense power she would come to wield. Amenhotep III, besotted by her beauty and intelligence, elevated her to an unprecedented position, granting her titles and honors previously reserved for queens of pure royal blood. Her name appeared on monuments alongside his, her image carved into colossal statues, a testament to her exceptional status. Yet, her true power lay not in these public declarations, but in the private counsel she offered, the strategic alliances she forged, and the quiet authority she commanded within the royal household. Her influence began early in Amenhotep III's reign, subtly shaping his decisions, guiding his policies. She understood the intricate web of court politics, the jealousies, the ambitions, the alliances. She was a master strategist, her intellect as sharp as any vizier's. Imagine the scene, a hushed conversation in the private gardens of the Malkata Palace, the air heavy with the scent of jasmine and the distant murmur of the Nile. Amenhotep III, weary from a day of state affairs, reclines on a cushioned divan, his brow furrowed with the burdens of kingship. Tai sits beside him, her posture elegant, her eyes keen and intelligent. She listens intently as he recounts the challenges of managing the vast empire, the restless Nubians, the ambitious Hittites, the demands of the powerful Ammonius priesthood. The high priest of Ammonius seeks greater concessions, my lord, the pharaoh might sigh, a hint of frustration in his voice. His temples grow rich, his influence vast. He demands more land, more gold, more priests under his sway. Tai would not immediately offer advice. Instead, she would ask probing questions, her voice soft yet incisive. And what of the granaries, my lord? Are they full? Are the people fed? For a hungry populace is a fertile ground for discontent, and discontent, even amongst the lowliest, can be fanned into a dangerous blaze by those who seek to undermine your authority. Her words were a gentle reminder that the pharaoh's power ultimately rested on the well-being of his people, not just the appeasement of the priesthood. She would then offer solutions not as commands, but as suggestions, presented with such logic and foresight that they seemed to be the pharaoh's own ideas. Perhaps, she might muse, a grand festival, honoring not only Ammonius, but all the gods of Egypt, with bountiful offerings for the people. A show of generosity from the throne, reminding all where true power resides, and subtly diluting the singular focus on Ammonius. This was her genius, to present her counsel in a way that empowered the pharaoh, making him believe he was the sole author of the strategy, while she, the quiet orchestrator, remained in the background. Tai's power extended beyond domestic policy. She was deeply involved in foreign affairs, a role unprecedented for a queen. The Amarna letters, a trove of diplomatic correspondence between Egypt and its neighbors, reveal her active participation. Kings of Mitanni and Babylon corresponded directly with her, sending her lavish gifts, seeking her intercession with the pharaoh. They understood that to gain favor with Egypt, one often had to first gain favor with its powerful queen. Imagine a foreign envoy sweating in the Egyptian heat, presenting a beautifully crafted piece of lapis lazuli to Tai, not just as a gift, but as a plea for her support in a complex diplomatic negotiation. You would see the glint in her eye, not of greed, but of shrewd assessment, weighing the political implications of every gesture, every offering. Her influence was particularly crucial in the rearing of her children, especially her son, Amenhotep IV, who would later become Akhenaten. She instilled in him a love for learning, a contemplative nature, and perhaps, a subtle questioning of established traditions. While the Ammonius priesthood grew ever more powerful, Tai, through her family connections to the Aten cult, her father Yuya was associated with it, may have subtly nurtured her son's burgeoning interest in this alternative solar deity. She understood the political danger of the Ammonius priesthood's unchecked power and may have seen in the Aten a potential counterweight, a way to reassert royal authority over the religious establishment. As Amenhotep III aged, his health began to decline. The weight of his vast empire and the opulent lifestyle he maintained took their toll. It was during this period that Tai's influence became even more pronounced, transitioning from a trusted advisor to a de facto co-regent. She managed the affairs of state, received foreign dignitaries, and ensured the smooth functioning of the vast royal administration. The power of the king's mother was a formidable force in ancient Egypt, but Tai elevated it to an entirely new level. She was not merely a biological mother, she was a political mentor, a strategic partner, and the unwavering pillar of the dynasty. You would have seen her presiding over court sessions, her presence commanding respect, even awe. While the formal decrees were issued in the pharaoh's name, the policies, the appointments, the very direction of the kingdom, often bore the subtle imprint of Tai's mind. She was the steady hand on the rudder, navigating the ship of state through increasingly turbulent waters, particularly as her son, Akhenaten, began to show signs of his radical religious inclinations. The transition from Amenhotep III to Akhenaten was one of the most tumultuous periods in Egyptian history, marked by a dramatic shift from the traditional polytheism of Ammonius to the monotheistic worship of the Aten. While Akhenaten is often credited as the sole instigator of this revolution, Tai's role, though less overt, was undeniably significant. She was the bridge between the old and the new, the stabilizing force during a period of unprecedented upheaval. She accompanied Akhenaten to his new capital, Akhetaten, Amarna, a testament to her enduring influence and her willingness to support her son, even in his most radical endeavors. Her presence at Amarna was not merely symbolic. She continued to be a crucial advisor, a voice of experience and wisdom amidst the revolutionary fervor. You can imagine the intense, often heated, discussions that must have taken place within the royal family as Akhenaten dismantled centuries of tradition, alienated the powerful Ammonius priesthood, and moved the capital. Tai, with her deep understanding of Egyptian politics and religion, would have been an invaluable source of counsel, perhaps tempering some of Akhenaten's more extreme impulses, or at least helping him navigate the treacherous waters of his reforms. Her death, sometime in Akhenaten's reign, marked a turning point. Without her steadying hand, Akhenaten's reforms became increasingly radical, his isolation from the traditional power centers of Egypt more complete. The chaos that followed his reign, the struggle to restore the old order, might have been mitigated had Tai been there to guide the transition, to broker compromises, to maintain the delicate balance that she had so skillfully managed for decades. Tai's legacy is one of silent strength, of a woman who, though never wearing the double crown herself, wielded a power that rivaled that of the pharaohs she served. She shaped policies, influenced foreign relations, and guided the spiritual direction of Egypt, all from the shadows of the throne. Her story is a powerful reminder that true authority is not always loud and overt. Sometimes, it is a quiet, persistent force, a serpent's whisper that subtly redirects the course of an empire. You, reflecting on her life, would understand that the golden age of Amenhotep III and the revolutionary fervor of Akhenaten were both, in profound ways, products of Tai's unseen hand, a testament to the enduring power of the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. The third intermediate period in Egypt was a fractured mosaic of competing dynasties, a time when the unified grandeur of the new kingdom had dissolved into localized power centers and internal strife. Yet, amidst this political fragmentation, a unique and formidable power emerged, wielded by women, the gods' wives of Ammonius. These high priestesses, often royal princesses, held spiritual, economic, and political sway over Upper Egypt, effectively ruling Thebes and its surrounding territories from the hallowed halls of the Karnak temple complex. You, navigating the labyrinthine corridors of Karnak during this era, would feel the immense spiritual energy emanating from its colossal pylons and sacred lakes. But you would also sense a profound temporal power, a quiet authority that rivaled and often surpassed that of the nominal pharaohs residing in the distant delta. Consider Shepenwepet I, daughter of Osorkon III, a pharaoh of the 23rd dynasty. Her appointment as God's wife of Ammonius was not merely a religious elevation, it was a strategic political maneuver. In an age where pharaohs struggled to assert control over the entirety of Egypt, securing the loyalty and influence of the powerful Ammonius priesthood in Thebes was paramount. By placing their daughters in this esteemed position, the ruling dynasties effectively co-opted the immense spiritual and economic resources of Ammonius, creating a female line of succession that, while technically subservient to the pharaoh, operated with significant autonomy. Shepenwepet's life was one of sacred duty and profound political responsibility. Her days were a meticulous ballet of ritual and administration. Imagine her, cloaked in the finest white linen, adorned with sacred amulets, leading the daily rituals in the innermost sanctuaries of Karnak. Her voice, clear and resonant, would intone ancient hymns, invoking the blessings of Ammonius Re, the king of the gods. She would perform purification rites, offer libations, and oversee the intricate ceremonies that ensured the cosmic order, Ma'at, was maintained. These were not mere symbolic gestures. They were acts of immense spiritual power, believed to sustain the very fabric of existence. But her duties extended far beyond the purely spiritual. As God's wife, Shepenwepet controlled vast estates throughout Upper Egypt, managing their agricultural output, collecting taxes, and overseeing a complex bureaucracy of scribes, overseers, and artisans. The wealth flowing into the coffers of Ammonius, under her direct stewardship, was immense, rivaling that of the pharaoh himself. This economic power translated directly into political influence. She could fund projects, reward loyalists, and crucially raise and equip her own retinues of temple guards, effectively a standing army loyal to her, not the distant pharaoh. Her residence, the house of the god's wife, was more than a home. It was a secondary palace, a center of political and administrative power. Here she would receive emissaries from local nomarchs, mediate disputes, and issue decrees that carried the weight of both divine and temporal authority. You, as an observer, would notice the deference shown to her by even the most powerful men in Thebes. They would bow low, their voices hushed, their requests presented with a mixture of reverence and strategic calculation. For Shepenwepet, though a woman, held the key to stability in Upper Egypt. Her personal life, too, was woven into the fabric of her power. As God's wife, she was expected to remain celibate, a divine adoratress, consecrated to Ammonius. This symbolic marriage to the god further elevated her status, placing her beyond the traditional constraints of mortal women and freeing her from the demands of familial marriage alliances that often entangled royal princesses. This celibacy, however, did not preclude the need for a successor. The position was hereditary, passed from one god's wife to her chosen heiress, often an adopted royal princess from a favored dynastic line. This adoption process was a powerful tool for forging alliances and ensuring the continuity of her influence. Imagine the intricate negotiations that would precede the adoption of a new god's wife. Shepenwepet, in her later years, would carefully select her successor, often a daughter of the reigning pharaoh, thereby cementing the bond between the Theban religious establishment and the royal house. This act was a profound political statement, a declaration of alliance that stabilized the fragmented kingdom. The young princess, leaving her royal family in the Delta, would travel to Thebes, embarking on a new life of sacred duty and immense power, trained by Shepenwepet herself in the complex rituals and administrative duties of her office. The monuments of Karnak bear silent witness to their power. The chapels and shrines commissioned by the gods' wives are adorned with their names and images, depicting them in the full regalia of their office, often standing alongside, or even in place of, the pharaoh in ritual scenes. Their names would be inscribed in cartouches, a privilege usually reserved for kings and queens. You, walking through these ancient halls, would see their profound impact, their enduring legacy etched in stone. They were not merely priestesses, They were de facto rulers, their authority recognized and respected across Upper Egypt. The gods' wives navigated a complex political landscape, balancing the demands of distant pharaohs, the ambitions of local warlords, and the spiritual needs of the populace. Their power was often subtle, exercised through religious legitimacy and economic control rather than military might, though they commanded considerable resources. They acted as mediators, peacemakers, and administrators, ensuring the continued prosperity of Thebes, even as the rest of Egypt struggled with fragmentation. The story of Karamama B, another god's wife of Ammonius, illustrates the artistic and cultural patronage associated with the office. Her magnificent bronze statue, now housed in the Louvre, is a masterpiece of Egyptian art, depicting her in all her regal and divine splendor. It is not just a work of art, it is a statement of power, a tangible representation of her immense status and wealth. You, gazing upon its intricate details, would feel the weight of history, the silent assertion of female authority captured in bronze. The gods' wives of Ammonius represent a unique chapter in the history of female power in ancient Egypt. They were women who, through a combination of religious consecration, strategic alliances, and astute administration, carved out a sphere of influence that allowed them to rule a significant portion of Egypt from the shadows of the temple. They were the spiritual guardians and the temporal administrators, the silent architects of stability in a turbulent age. Their story reminds us that power manifests in many forms, and that often, the most enduring influence is wielded not from the battlefield or the throne, but from the sacred precincts, through the quiet strength and unwavering dedication of women who understood the profound interconnection between the divine and the earthly. You, understanding their role, would recognize them as true rulers, their legacy etched not just in stone, but in the enduring spirit of Thebes, a testament to the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. The air within the royal harem of Medinet Habu was usually thick with the scent of perfumed oils and languid gossip, a gilded cage where royal concubines and minor wives lived in luxurious confinement. But in the twilight years of Ramesses III, a different kind of scent began to permeate the opulent chambers, the metallic tang of ambition, the acrid whiff of betrayal. Here, amidst the silken cushions and whispered secrets, a plot of unimaginable audacity was hatched, a conspiracy to overthrow the pharaoh himself, orchestrated not by rival generals or foreign enemies, but by the women of the royal household. You, a fly on the wall in this clandestine world, would feel the palpable tension, the nervous energy of women playing a deadly game, their lives and the fate of Egypt hanging in the balance. Queen Tai, a secondary wife of Ramesses III, found herself increasingly frustrated. Her son, Pentawere, though of royal blood, was not the designated heir. That honor belonged to Ramesses IV, the son of the great royal wife, Queen Iset. Tai, consumed by a mother's fierce ambition and perhaps a deep-seated resentment at her secondary status, saw an opportunity in the aging pharaoh's declining health and the growing discontent within the court. She believed her son, Pentawere, was more deserving, more capable. This conviction, coupled with the allure of ultimate power, ignited the spark of rebellion within her heart. The harem, far from being a passive collection of women, was a complex ecosystem of alliances, rivalries, and information networks. It was a place where whispers traveled faster than royal decrees, where favors were traded, and where powerful women held sway over their own retinues of servants, scribes, and eunuchs. Tai understood this intricate system. She began to cultivate her network, subtly testing loyalties, planting seeds of doubt about Ramesses III's leadership, and extolling the virtues of her own son. Her first target was the chief steward of the harem, a man named Pebekamen. He was responsible for the daily administration of the vast royal household, controlling access, managing resources, and overseeing the hundreds of servants and guards. Pebekamen, a man of considerable influence and perhaps susceptible to promises of greater power and wealth, became Tai's key accomplice. He was the serpent in the garden, the conduit through which the conspiracy could spread beyond the confines of the harem walls. Through Pebekamen, Tai began to recruit other disgruntled officials: scribes, cupbearers, overseers of the royal treasury, even commanders of the palace guard. Each recruit had their own grievances, their own ambitions, their own price. Some were promised land and riches, others positions of power in the new regime. The lure of a new order, one where their loyalty would be richly rewarded, proved irresistible to many. The plot was meticulously planned. The conspirators intended to assassinate Ramesses III during the annual Opet festival, a grand public procession that would offer an ideal opportunity amidst the chaos and crowds. Simultaneously, a popular uprising was to be incited in the Delta, diverting attention and creating a diversion while Pentawere seized the throne in Thebes. It was a bold, audacious plan, requiring immense coordination and absolute secrecy. Imagine the clandestine meetings, hushed conversations in dimly lit chambers, coded messages passed through trusted servants, secret vows exchanged under the watchful eyes of ancient gods. Tai, the architect of this intricate web, would sit at the heart of it all, her mind sharp, her resolve unyielding. You would see the tension etched on her face, the immense risk she was taking, the sheer audacity of her ambition. She was not a warrior, but her battlefield was the mind, her weapons were persuasion and manipulation. The women of the harem played a crucial role. They were not just pawns. Many were active participants. Concubines, who had access to the pharaoh's private chambers, could potentially poison him or facilitate the entry of assassins. Priestesses within the harem, who performed rituals for the royal family, could use their influence to spread rumors or manipulate omens. The intricate social structure of the harem, usually designed to contain and control women, was now being turned against the very system it served. The plan, however, was fatally flawed. Despite the conspirators' best efforts to maintain secrecy, whispers began to reach the ears of loyal officials. Perhaps a nervous servant overheard a coded conversation, or a disgruntled guard reported suspicious movements. The exact details remain shrouded in mystery, but what is clear is that the plot was uncovered before it could be fully executed. The discovery sent shockwaves through the royal court. Ramesses III, though weakened by age, was still a powerful pharaoh. He immediately ordered a full investigation. A special tribunal was convened, composed of trusted officials, including the vizier and 2 high stewards. The trials that followed were meticulously documented, their records providing a chilling insight into the workings of the conspiracy. The conspirators were rounded up. Pebekamen, the chief steward, was among the first to be arrested. Under interrogation he confessed, implicating Queen Tai, her son Pentawere, and a host of other officials and women from the harem. The scale of the conspiracy was staggering, revealing a deep vein of discontent running through the very heart of the royal household. The punishment was swift and brutal. For the most prominent conspirators, including Pebekamen, the sentence was death. Some were forced to commit suicide by poison, a noble death that preserved their bodies from public defilement. Others were impaled or beheaded. For those of lower status, their noses and ears were cut off, their faces disfigured, a mark of shame that would follow them for the rest of their lives. Pentawere, the ambitious son, was also found guilty. The records state he took his own life, suggesting he was given the honorable option of suicide by poison, a final act of mercy from the pharaoh who was his father. His dreams of kingship, nurtured by his mother's ambition, ended in a bitter, lonely death. And Queen Tai? Her fate is not explicitly stated in the surviving records, but it is clear her power was utterly destroyed. She likely faced a similar, if not more severe, punishment, her name erased from monuments, her memory condemned to oblivion. The woman who had dared to challenge the divine order of kingship, who had orchestrated a revolution from the shadows of the harem, paid the ultimate price. The harem conspiracy stands as a stark testament to the hidden power dynamics within ancient Egyptian society. It reveals that even in a highly centralized patriarchal system, women could wield immense influence, not just through traditional roles as queen mothers or priestesses, but also through direct, albeit clandestine, political action. It shows the danger that lurked within the gilded cages of the royal household, where ambition could fester and betrayal could bloom amidst the silks and perfumes. You, reflecting on this dark chapter, would recognize the profound irony. The very institution designed to secure the pharaoh's lineage and provide him with comfort became the crucible of his greatest threat. The women of the harem, usually seen as passive figures, proved capable of orchestrating a plot that nearly toppled an empire. Their story is a chilling reminder that power can emerge from the most unexpected places, a testament to the dramatic and often tragic consequences when women dared to rule, even if only for a fleeting, dangerous moment. From the deepest shadows of Egypt, the reign of Ramesses II, Ramesses the Great, was an epic of unparalleled splendor, a golden age of monumental construction, military campaigns, and a vast, sprawling empire. Yet, behind the colossus of the pharaoh, stood a woman of remarkable grace, intelligence, and diplomatic prowess, Nefertari, his great royal wife. Though her name shines brightly on temples and statues, her true power lay not in overt command, but in the subtle, profound influence she exerted as a cultural ambassador, a religious leader, and a strategic partner to one of Egypt's most formidable rulers. You, a courtier in the dazzling city of Pyramus, would have seen Nefertari not just as the pharaoh's consort, but as a force in her own right, her presence a calming yet powerful counterpoint to Ramesses's often fiery persona. Nefertari's origins are somewhat obscure, suggesting she may not have been of pure royal blood, a fact that makes her ascent to such prominence even more remarkable. Ramesses II, clearly deeply devoted to her, elevated her to an unprecedented status, showering her with honors and titles. Her beauty was legendary, but it was her intellect and charisma that secured her enduring position as his most trusted confidant and partner. Her name, the most beautiful of them all, was not just a tribute to her physical appearance, but to the radiance of her spirit and mind. Her role extended far beyond the traditional duties of a queen. Nefertari was a key figure in Egyptian diplomacy, a role often overlooked in historical accounts dominated by military conquests. The Hittite Empire, Egypt's formidable rival to the north, had engaged in decades of costly warfare with Egypt. The Battle of Kadesh, though claimed as a victory by Ramesses, was a bloody stalemate, and both empires eventually sought peace. The resulting peace treaty, signed in the 21st year of Ramesses's reign, was a landmark agreement, the first recorded international peace treaty in history. Nefertari played a crucial, albeit subtle, role in its negotiation and ratification. While the official documents were exchanged between Ramesses and the Hittite king Hattusili III, letters exchanged between the two royal families reveal a vibrant diplomatic correspondence between the queens. Pujahipa, Hattusili's formidable wife, wrote directly to Nefertari, addressing her as a respected equal, discussing matters of state and exchanging gifts. Imagine the scene: a meticulously crafted papyrus scroll, bearing the seal of the Hittite queen, arrives in Nefertari's chambers. She would read it with intense concentration, absorbing the nuances of Pujahipa's language, discerning the hidden messages within the flowery courtesies. Her responses, dictated to her scribes, would be equally artful, conveying messages of friendship and goodwill, while subtly reinforcing Egypt's strength and the pharaoh's unwavering resolve for peace. These exchanges were not mere pleasantries; they were vital channels of communication, building trust and understanding between two powerful, often antagonistic empires. You would feel the weight of these letters, knowing that each carefully chosen word could avert war or pave the way for lasting peace. Nefertari also played a significant role in the cultural exchange that followed the peace treaty. The marriage of Ramesses II to a Hittite princess, a symbol of the newfound alliance, would have been facilitated and managed by Nefertari. She would have overseen the reception of the foreign princess, ensuring her integration into the Egyptian court, a delicate task requiring immense tact and sensitivity. This was not just about hospitality, it was about forging lasting bonds between two distinct cultures. Beyond diplomacy, Nefertari was a powerful religious figure. She held the prestigious title of God's wife of Ammonius, a testament to her spiritual authority. Her presence in religious ceremonies was significant, her prayers believed to be particularly efficacious. She was often depicted alongside Ramesses in temple reliefs, participating in offerings to the gods, her image radiating piety and grace. Her most magnificent monument, the small temple at Abu Simbel, dedicated to Hathor and herself, stands as an enduring testament to her divine status and the pharaoh's profound love. Walk through that temple, even in its modern relocated form, and you would feel the reverence Ramesses held for her. Her colossal statues gaze out from the facade, almost equaling the size of those dedicated to the pharaoh himself. Inside, vibrant reliefs depict her not as a passive consort, but as an active participant in divine rituals, her beauty and spiritual power intertwined. You would witness the extraordinary honor bestowed upon her, an honor that spoke volumes about her influence. Within the royal household, Nefertari was the epitome of grace and order. She managed the vast staff, oversaw the education of the royal children, and ensured the smooth functioning of the palace. Her presence brought stability and harmony to the often turbulent world of the court. She was the anchor for Ramesses, a calm and intelligent mind that he could always rely upon. Her personal relationship with Ramesses II was legendary. Inscriptions speak of his profound love and admiration for her. On the walls of her tomb in the Valley of the Queens, described as one of the most beautiful ever discovered, Ramesses wrote, "My love is unique. No one can rival her, for she is the most beautiful woman alive. Just by passing, she has stolen my heart." This was not merely poetic flourish. It reflected a deep partnership, a bond of mutual respect and affection that allowed Nefertari to exert her influence so effectively. Nefertari's death, sometime in the 24th year of Ramesses's reign, left a profound void. Though other queens would follow, none would ever achieve the same level of prominence or influence. Her passing marked the end of an era, a period when a queen could stand almost as an equal to the pharaoh, shaping the destiny of Egypt through diplomacy, religious authority, and the sheer force of her personality. Nefertari's legacy is a testament to the power of a queen who chose to rule not through brute force or overt political maneuvering, but through intelligence, diplomacy, and the profound influence she wielded over her powerful husband. She was a silent architect of peace, a cultural bridge builder, and a spiritual guide, all while maintaining the dignity and grace befitting a great royal wife. You, understanding her story, would recognize her as a truly remarkable figure, a woman who, from the shadows of a grand and powerful reign, left an indelible mark on the history of Egypt, a testament to the enduring power of the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. The sands of Amarna still whispered tales of radical change and abandoned gods when tragedy struck the young royal house of Egypt. Tutankhamun, the boy king who had restored the old order after the tumultuous Amarna heresy, lay dead, his reign prematurely ended. The suddenness of his demise plunged Egypt into a profound crisis. Who would succeed him? The royal line was fragile, and the powerful figures of the court, the Grand Vizier I and the General Horemheb, loomed large, their ambitions barely concealed beneath a veneer of loyalty. In the midst of this vacuum, a young queen, Ankhesenamun, Tutankhamun's widow, found herself in an impossible position. Her desperate plea to a foreign king, a plea for a husband from among Egypt's enemies, stands as one of the most poignant and dramatic episodes of female struggle for power from the shadows. You, witnessing the raw grief and terrifying vulnerability of Ankhesenamun, would feel the suffocating weight of her predicament. Ankhesenamun was no stranger to upheaval. Born Ankhesenpetun, daughter of Akhenaten and Nefertiti, She had witnessed the religious revolution of her parents, the abandonment of traditional gods, and the subsequent return to orthodoxy under her husband Tutankhamun. She had changed her name to Enkhsenamen, signifying her allegiance to Ammonius, shedding the eight-nist past. She was a survivor, adapting to the shifting tides of power, but now, alone, she faced a challenge far greater than any before. Tutankhamun's death left no direct heir. The royal line was broken. According to Egyptian custom, the pharaoh's widow was expected to marry his successor, thereby legitimizing the new king and ensuring the continuity of the divine bloodline. But Enkhsenamen, still young, perhaps barely in her 20s, faced a horrifying prospect. Marriage to one of the powerful aging courtiers, men who had served her father and her husband, men whose ambitions she surely distrusted. To marry I, the Grand Vizier, would be to surrender herself and the throne to a man who was almost certainly responsible for her husband's death or at least stood to gain immensely from it. To marry Horemheb, the formidable general, would be to place herself under the control of a military strongman. Both options meant the end of her autonomy, the subjugation of her will, and the complete loss of any subtle influence she might have hoped to wield. In an act of unprecedented desperation and defiance, Enkhsenamen took a bold, almost suicidal, step. She wrote a letter not to an Egyptian official, but to Suppiluliuma I, the powerful Hittite king, Egypt's traditional enemy. The Amarna letters, a collection of diplomatic correspondence, revealed this extraordinary plea, known as the Dakamunza letter. Imagine the scene: a royal scribe, trembling with fear and apprehension, carefully inscribing the queen's words onto a clay tablet. Enkhsenamen, her face pale, her eyes burning with a desperate resolve, dictates her message. My husband has died and I have no son. They say you have many sons. You might give me one of your sons to become my husband. I am loath to take one of my servants and make him my husband. The audacity of this plea cannot be overstated. It was a direct challenge to Egyptian tradition, a desperate attempt to bypass the powerful men of her court and secure a husband from a foreign land, a husband who would be beholden to her, not to the entrenched factions of Egypt. She was seeking a king who would rule with her, not over her, a puppet king she could control from the shadows, thereby maintaining her own precarious position and safeguarding the future of the dynasty, even if it meant bringing a foreign prince to the throne. You would feel the weight of that decision, the sheer terror and courage it required. Suppiluliuma I, initially skeptical, believed it was a trick. Why would the queen of the mighty land of Egypt seek a husband from a rival kingdom? He sent an envoy to verify the queen's sincerity. Enkhsenamen, upon receiving the Hittite envoy, reiterated her plea, her words filled with a raw, undeniable urgency. Why do you say they are trying to deceive me? If I had a son, would I write to a foreign country in a manner that is humiliating to me and to my country? You have insulted me by speaking thus. My husband has died. I have no son. Never shall I take a servant of mine and make him my husband. I have written to no other country, only to you. They say you have many sons. Give me one of your sons, and he will be my husband and king in the land of Egypt. Her words painted a vivid picture of her isolation, her fear, and her absolute refusal to submit to the will of the powerful courtiers. She was making a desperate gamble, a last-ditch effort to maintain some semblance of control over her destiny and the destiny of Egypt. She understood that a foreign prince, without established power bases in Egypt, would be dependent on her, allowing her to rule effectively from behind him. Convinced by her sincerity, Suppiluliuma I agreed. He dispatched his son, Prince Zinanza, to Egypt, a young man destined to become pharaoh and husband to Enkhsenamen. The journey from Hutti to Egypt was long and arduous, fraught with peril. But the greatest danger lay not in the desert or the mountains, but within the treacherous politics of Egypt itself. Zinanza never reached Egypt. He died en route, murdered by unknown assailants. The Hittite records explicitly blame the Egyptians, accusing them of treachery. While the exact perpetrators remain a subject of historical debate, the most likely culprits were Ai and Horemheb, the very men Ankhesenamun had sought to circumvent. They could not allow a foreign prince, beholden to no one in Egypt, to ascend the throne. It would have jeopardized their own ambitions and undermined their carefully constructed power basis. The death of Zenanza sealed Ankhesenamun's fate. Her desperate gamble had failed. The powerful factions within Egypt had triumphed. With no other options and her foreign lifeline severed, Ankhesenamun was forced to marry Ai, the Grand Vizier. The marriage was likely a formality, a means for Ai to legitimize his claim to the throne. Her name disappears from the historical record shortly after this forced union. Her tomb has never been definitively identified, and her ultimate fate remains shrouded in mystery, a testament to her tragic end. The story of Ankhesenamun is a powerful, heartbreaking narrative of a woman caught in the unforgiving currents of power. She was a queen who, facing insurmountable odds, dared to defy tradition and challenge the established order, all in a desperate attempt to maintain her autonomy and influence. Her plea to the Hittite king was a monumental act of courage, a testament to her fierce will to survive and to rule, even if from the deepest shadows. You, reflecting on her brief, tumultuous life, would feel the profound tragedy of her situation. She was a pawn in a deadly game, yet she fought with the only weapons available to her: her intelligence, her royal status, and her desperate courage. Her story reminds us that even in the most patriarchal societies, women could exert agency, could make choices that, however desperate, reshaped the course of history. Ankhesenamun's desperate plea, though ultimately unsuccessful, remains a powerful symbol of the women who, from the shadows of a collapsing dynasty, dared to challenge fate and fight for their right to rule Egypt. Long before a young prince donned the double crown, long before he commanded armies or issued decrees, his earliest years were spent in the sheltered confines of the royal nursery. Here, amidst the gentle lullabies and stern lessons, a different kind of power was wielded, one that shaped the very character and destiny of future pharaohs. The women who presided over this sacred space, the royal wet nurses, the governesses, the queen mothers, held an unparalleled, intimate influence over the boys who would one day rule Egypt. Their power was not overt, not etched on temple walls, but it was profoundly transformative, a silent, persistent force that molded the minds and loyalties of the divine rulers. You, observing this hidden world, would recognize the immense stakes involved in every whispered word, every comforting embrace, every lesson imparted. The royal wet nurse, or Manat, held a position of immense prestige and influence. Chosen with meticulous care, often from noble families or families with a history of loyalty to the royal house, she was more than a caretaker. She was a surrogate mother, a second source of nourishment and affection for the prince. Her bond with the future pharaoh was often lifelong and deeply personal. The milk she provided was believed to imbue the child with strength and good fortune, and her very presence was seen as a blessing. Imagine the young Prince Thutmose III, destined to become one of Egypt's greatest warrior pharaohs, nestled in the arms of his wet nurse, Ini. She would have been his first confidant, his first teacher, the soothing voice that calmed his infant cries. As he grew, she would continue to be a constant presence, witnessing his formative years, understanding his temperament, his fears, his nascent ambitions. Her influence would be subtle but pervasive. She would teach him the first prayers to the gods, instill in him the values of Ma'at, and provide the emotional security necessary for a child destined for immense responsibility. The wet nurse's loyalty was often absolute, and her connections within the court could be formidable. Her own children would grow up alongside the prince, often becoming his most trusted companions and advisors in adulthood. This created a powerful informal network of loyalists, a shadow cabinet of sorts, whose devotion was rooted not in political ambition, but in the intimate bonds forged in the nursery. You would see the quiet deference shown to the elderly wet nurse long after her charge had ascended the throne, a testament to her enduring influence. Her word, though rarely spoken in public, carried immense weight in the pharaoh's private chambers. Beyond the wet nurses, the governesses and female tutors played a crucial role in the prince's early education. While male tutors taught him strategy, religion, and administration, the women of the nursery instilled in him the softer skills: compassion, diplomacy, an understanding of court etiquette, and an appreciation for the arts. They fostered his spiritual development, guiding him through the intricate rituals and beliefs of ancient Egyptian religion. The queen mothers, of course, held the ultimate authority within the royal nursery. They oversaw the selection of the wet nurses and governesses, ensuring that only the most loyal and capable women were entrusted with the care of their precious sons. They guided the curriculum, monitored the prince's progress, and subtly shaped his worldview. Their influence was direct and profound, often setting the tone for the future pharaoh's reign. Consider the role of Queen Tai, mother of Akhenaten, within the royal nursery. She was known for her intellect and her strong personality. It is highly probable that she personally oversaw Akhenaten's early education, nurturing his contemplative nature and perhaps even subtly encouraging his interest in the Aten, the solar disk deity, which would later lead to his revolutionary religious reforms. Her influence, though exercised in the private sphere of the nursery, laid the groundwork for one of the most radical shifts in Egyptian history. You would feel the weight of her decisions, knowing that the seeds of a religious revolution were sown in the quiet lessons she imparted. The women of the royal nursery were also instrumental in fostering a sense of royal identity and legitimacy in the young prince. They would tell him stories of his divine ancestors, recount the glories of past pharaohs, and impress upon him the sacred duty of kingship. This constant reinforcement of his divine right to rule, instilled from his earliest days, was crucial for his psychological development as a future monarch. The physical environment of the royal nursery itself was designed to reflect the prince's elevated status, while also providing a nurturing space. It would have been adorned with protective amulets, images of benevolent deities, and depictions of royal ancestors. The air would have been filled with the scent of incense, the murmur of prayers, and the gentle sounds of music, creating an atmosphere conducive to both learning and spiritual growth. You would see the meticulous care taken, the immense resources dedicated to this hidden world, understanding its profound importance. The bonds forged in the nursery often lasted a lifetime. When a pharaoh ascended the throne, his trusted wet nurse or governess might continue to hold a position of honor and influence within the court, serving as a respected advisor or a keeper of royal secrets. Their loyalty was often unwavering, a testament to the deep personal connection they shared with the monarch. The power of the royal nursery was a subtle but potent force in ancient Egypt. It was a place where character was forged, loyalties were cultivated, and the very foundations of kingship were laid. The women who presided over this sacred space, though rarely celebrated in monumental inscriptions, were the silent architects of royal identity, shaping the minds and hearts of the boys who would one day command an empire. Their influence, exercised from the shadows of the nursery, had a profound and lasting impact on the history of Egypt. You, recognizing their quiet strength, would understand that the fate of a nation often rested in the gentle hands that rocked the cradle of its future king. In the intricate tapestry of ancient Egyptian power, few positions held as much latent authority as that of the king's mother. This title, though seemingly familial, was a profound declaration of political and spiritual legitimacy, elevating the woman who bore it to a status that often rivaled, and sometimes surpassed, that of the reigning pharaoh. She was the matriarch of the dynasty, the living link to the divine lineage, and often, the silent force guiding the hand of her royal son. You, observing the court, would see the deference shown to the king's mother, a respect born not just of filial piety, but of a deep understanding of her immense, often unwritten power. The king's mother was more than just the biological parent of the pharaoh. She was the sacred vessel through whom the divine essence of kingship passed. Her purity, her connection to the gods, and her unwavering support for her son were paramount to the stability of the realm. Her influence began the moment her son was designated heir, and it often continued until her dying breath, a constant, guiding presence in the life of the monarch. Consider the example of Queen Mutamwia, mother of Amenhotep III. Her husband, Thutmose IV, had been a younger son, possibly not the initial heir, and his ascension to the throne was attributed to a divine dream, the dream stela. This meant that Mutamwia's son, Amenhotep III, had a somewhat less secure claim to the throne than a son born of the primary heir. It was Mutamwia's subtle yet powerful influence that helped to legitimize her son's reign and consolidate his position. She was depicted prominently in the birth scenes of Amenhotep III at Luxor Temple, where she is shown being embraced by the god Ammonius, symbolizing the divine conception of the pharaoh. This was a powerful propaganda tool, asserting Amenhotep III's divine right to rule through his mother's sacred connection. Mutamwia, by allowing herself to be portrayed in such a manner, actively participated in the creation of her son's legitimacy, leveraging her status as the king's mother to solidify his claim. You would see these images and understand the profound message they conveyed. The pharaoh was divine, and his divinity flowed through his mother. Her role was not merely symbolic. Mutamwia would have played a crucial part in her son's early education, instilling in him the values and knowledge necessary for kingship. She would have advised him on matters of court protocol, religious observance, and political strategy, drawing on her own experience within the royal household. Her chambers would have been a place of counsel, where the young pharaoh could seek wisdom and guidance without the formalities of the public court. The king's mother often acted as a regent during the minority of her son, wielding direct authority until he came of age. Even when the pharaoh was an adult, her counsel remained invaluable. She was seen as a fount of wisdom, a link to tradition, and a voice of calm reason amidst the often turbulent world of court politics. Her position transcended the rivalries of viziers and generals. She represented the enduring spirit of the dynasty itself. During the New Kingdom, the power of the king's mother reached new heights. She often held her own economic resources, managed her own estates, and commanded her own household. This financial independence gave her significant leverage within the court, allowing her to patronize temples, reward loyal officials, and support her own political agenda. She was not dependent on the pharaoh for her influence. Her power was inherent in her title. You would notice the unique privileges afforded to the king's mother. Her tomb, if she was not buried with her husband, would be elaborate, often rivaling those of pharaohs. Her name might appear in cartouches, a symbol of royal authority. She would receive foreign dignitaries, attend important state ceremonies, and her pronouncements, though not official decrees, carried immense moral and political weight. Consider also the powerful role of Queen Iset, mother of Ramesses IV. After the assassination of Ramesses III in the harem conspiracy, which we discussed earlier, Iset, as the great royal wife and mother of the designated heir, played a critical role in ensuring her son's swift and undisputed succession. In the chaos that followed the assassination, her calm demeanor and her unwavering support for Ramesses IV would have been crucial in stabilizing the court and preventing further unrest. Her authority as king's mother provided the necessary legitimacy for her son to claim the throne and punish the conspirators. You would see her quiet strength amidst the storm, a beacon of stability. The king's mother also served as a guardian of the royal lineage, ensuring the purity of the bloodline and the proper upbringing of future heirs. She was responsible for arranging strategic marriages for her son, forging alliances that strengthened the dynasty. Her influence extended to every aspect of royal life, from the grand affairs of state to the most intimate details of the royal family. Her power was often exercised through subtle means, a carefully chosen word, a knowing glance, a quiet conversation in the royal apartments. She did not need to issue commands. Her suggestions carried the weight of her divine status and her profound understanding of the intricacies of the court. She was the wise elder, the revered matriarch, whose counsel was sought and rarely ignored. The king's mother was the ultimate embodiment of female power operating from the shadows. She was not a pharaoh herself, with rare exceptions like Hatshepsut, who actively assumed the kingship, moving beyond the shadows, but her influence was absolutely foundational to the stability and legitimacy of the pharaoh's rule. She was the bedrock upon which the dynasty stood, the silent force that ensured the continuity of divine kingship. You, reflecting on the profound impact of the king's mother, would understand that her position was far more than a ceremonial title. It was a powerful office, a testament to the enduring respect and authority accorded to women who bore and nurtured the future rulers of Egypt. Her legacy is etched not in the grand pronouncements of pharaohs, but in the subtle shaping of their character, the silent guidance of their decisions, and the unwavering support that allowed them to reign. She was the hidden strength, the quiet wisdom, a true ruler from the shadows of Egypt, a testament to the enduring power of the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. In the sun-drenched temples dedicated to Hathor, goddess of love, joy, music, and motherhood, a different kind of female power flourished. The priestesses of Hathor, adorned with sistra and manats, were not merely ceremonial figures. They were influential women who commanded respect, managed vast temple estates, and exerted significant spiritual and cultural influence throughout ancient Egypt. Their power, though often perceived as purely religious, had profound social and economic implications, making them formidable figures who ruled from the sacred shadows of their divine patroness. You, entering a temple of Hathor, would feel an atmosphere of vibrant spirituality, but also a palpable sense of female agency and authority. The cult of Hathor was immensely popular across all strata of Egyptian society, from the humblest peasant to the loftiest pharaoh. She was the quintessential goddess, embodying femininity, fertility, and protection. Her priestesses therefore held a revered position, seen as intermediaries between the mortal world and the divine, channeling Hathor's benevolent power. The title Prophetess of Hathor, or Chantress of Hathor, was often held by royal women and noble women, imbuing them with spiritual authority and a public platform. They were responsible for performing the daily rituals, chanting hymns, playing sacred instruments like the sistrum, a rattle-like percussion instrument, and leading processions. These rituals were not just acts of worship. They were performances of power, reaffirming the cosmic order and the importance of female divinity. Imagine a grand procession through the temple courtyard. The priestesses, their beautiful linen dresses shimmering in the sunlight, their sistra rattling in rhythmic unison, creating a hypnotic sound that resonated through the very stones of the temple. Their voices, trained and melodic, would fill the air with praises to Hathor. You, observing this spectacle, would feel the immense spiritual energy they commanded, the profound connection they had to the divine. Beyond their ritual duties, the priestesses of Hathor often managed extensive temple estates. These estates were economic powerhouses, owning vast tracts of agricultural land, overseeing workshops of artisans, and employing numerous scribes and laborers. The income generated from these estates provided for the upkeep of the temple, the sustenance of its personnel, and often contributed to the broader economy of the region. The chief priestess of Hathor, therefore, was not just a spiritual leader, but a formidable administrator, managing significant wealth and resources. Her administrative duties would have included overseeing the harvest, managing temple finances, directing construction projects, and mediating disputes among the temple staff and tenants. Her decisions would have impacted the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of people. This economic power gave her considerable leverage within her community and often within the broader political landscape. She could use the temple's resources to patronize artists, fund charitable endeavors, or even exert political influence by lending support, or withholding it, from local nomarchs or officials. The priestesses also played a crucial role in the social life of ancient Egypt. Hathor was the goddess of joy, music, and celebration, and her temples were often centers of feasting, dancing, and communal gatherings. The priestesses presided over these festivals, fostering a sense of community and shared cultural identity. They were seen as embodiments of joy and vitality, their presence bringing blessings and good cheer. Their influence extended to matters of fertility and childbirth. Hathor was a protective goddess of women in labor, and her priestesses would have been consulted by women seeking blessings for conception or safe delivery. They would offer prayers, provide amulets, and perform rituals designed to ensure the health of mother and child. This intimate connection to the most fundamental aspects of human life gave them a unique and powerful position within society. Royal women frequently held titles as priestesses of Hathor, further intertwining religious and royal power. Queen Nefertari, for instance, held the title Mistress of the Two Lands, Chantress of Hathor. This dual role amplified her influence, allowing her to leverage both her royal status and her spiritual authority. It showed that even the most powerful queens recognized the importance of connecting with the divine feminine represented by Hathor. The cult of Hathor also provided opportunities for women from non-royal backgrounds to achieve positions of authority and respect. While the highest positions might have been reserved for the elite, lower ranks of priestesses and chantresses allowed women to pursue spiritual careers, gain an education, and achieve a degree of independence and status that might otherwise have been unavailable to them. You would find evidence of their widespread influence in the numerous small shrines and offerings dedicated to Hathor across Egypt, from the bustling cities to the remote mining sites. Miners, seeking protection and good fortune in their dangerous work, would invoke Hathor and her priestesses. Women seeking love or fertility would make pilgrimages to her temples, seeking the blessings of her chantresses. The priestesses of Hathor were not just figures of spiritual solace. They were powerful women who managed significant resources, influenced social norms, and played a vital role in the cultural and economic life of ancient Egypt. They embodied the benevolent yet formidable power of the divine feminine, ruling from the sacred shadows of their temples, their sistra echoing through the ages. Their story reminds us that power in ancient Egypt was multifaceted, and that women, through their connection to the divine, could achieve immense authority, shaping the hearts and minds of the people, a testament to the enduring power of the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. The Second Intermediate Period was a crucible of conflict, a time when Egypt lay divided and humiliated, its northern lands occupied by the foreign Hyksos rulers. The once mighty empire was reduced to a fractured collection of city-states, its people yearning for liberation. It was from this cauldron of despair that a new dynasty would emerge, the 17th dynasty, spearheading the War of Liberation. And at the heart of this resurgence, a figure of extraordinary strength and strategic brilliance, was Queen Ahotep I, mother of Ahmose I, the pharaoh who would finally expel the Hyksos and inaugurate the glorious new kingdom. Her power was not that of a pharaoh on the battlefield, but a relentless, unwavering force wielded from the shadows, ensuring the continuity of the royal line and galvanizing the resistance. You, witnessing the turmoil of this era, would recognize Ahotep as a beacon of hope and an architect of victory. Ahotep was no ordinary queen. She bore the titles King's Daughter, King's Sister, King's Wife, and most significantly, King's Mother. Her husband, Seqenenretau II, was a warrior pharaoh who bravely fought against the Hyksos, ultimately falling in battle, his mummified remains bearing the horrific wounds of combat. Her eldest son, Kamose, continued the fight, pushing the Hyksos further north, but he too met an early death. The burden of leadership, the weight of a nation's hopes, now fell upon her youngest son, Ahmose, still a boy. In this moment of profound vulnerability, with her husband and eldest son dead, and her youngest heir too young to rule, Ahotep stepped into the breach. She became the de facto regent, the unwavering hand that guided the fledgling dynasty. Her immediate task was monumental: to maintain stability in Thebes, to keep the War of Liberation alive, and to prepare Ahmose for the immense challenge of kingship. This was a leadership born not of ambition, but of necessity and an unyielding will to restore Egypt's glory. Imagine the atmosphere in Thebes during these desperate years. The city was a stronghold of Egyptian resistance, but it was constantly under threat from the Hyksos to the north. Supplies were scarce, morale was fragile, and the temptation to succumb to foreign rule was ever present. Ahotep, however, refused to yield. She rallied the people, inspiring them with her courage and her unwavering belief in Egypt's destiny. You would hear her words, perhaps not shouted from a public platform, but whispered in the royal court, carried by loyal officials, igniting the flames of patriotism. Her strategic brilliance was evident in her administrative prowess. She managed the royal treasury, ensuring that resources were allocated effectively to fund the ongoing war effort. She oversaw the provisioning of the army, the construction of defensive fortifications, and the maintenance of a stable economy in Upper Egypt. Her decisions were crucial in keeping the resistance viable, preventing the collapse of the Theban state. But Ahotep's influence extended beyond mere administration. She was a spiritual leader, invoking the blessings of the gods for victory, performing rituals to protect her son and the army. Her presence would have been a powerful symbol of divine favor, reassuring the populace and bolstering the morale of the soldiers. She understood that a war was fought not just with weapons, but with faith and unwavering resolve. Her most celebrated act, however, was her direct involvement in suppressing a rebellion, possibly a pro-Hyksos uprising or an internal challenge to the Theban dynasty. A funerary stela from Karnak, erected by Ahmose, extols her virtues. She is the one who has carried out the rites for Egypt. She has looked after Egypt. She has brought back its fugitives and collected its deserters. She has pacified Upper Egypt and subdued its rebels. She has driven away the enemies of Egypt. She has taken captive their rebels. This inscription paints a vivid picture of a queen who was not afraid to take decisive action, a woman who literally subdued its rebels. While she may not have personally led troops into battle, she certainly organized the military response, deployed loyal forces and crushed the uprising, ensuring the stability of Theban rule. You would feel the immense power and authority she commanded, a queen who acted with the decisive force of a pharaoh. Her funerary goods, discovered in her tomb, further attest to her warrior spirit and her role in the liberation. They included 3 golden flies, a military decoration awarded for valor, suggesting she either commanded troops or played a direct, courageous role in the war. Also found were a ceremonial axe and dagger, symbols of martial authority, further cementing her image as a warrior queen, even if her battles were fought from the strategic command center, not the front lines. As Ahmose grew into a young man, Ahotep continued to guide him, instilling in him the determination and leadership qualities necessary to complete the expulsion of the Hyksos. She was his mentor, his rock, the steady hand that prepared him for the monumental task ahead. You would see her quiet pride as Ahmose, now a formidable warrior, led his armies north, finally reclaiming Memphis and expelling the foreign invaders from Egypt. Ahotep's legacy is profound. She was the matriarch who held Egypt together during its darkest hour, the strategist who kept the flame of liberation burning, and the mother who raised the pharaoh who would usher in the glory of the new kingdom. Her power was wielded from the shadows of regency and maternal authority, but its impact was felt on every battlefield, in every liberated city, and in the renewed spirit of a unified Egypt. The story of Ahotep I reminds us that female power in ancient Egypt was not always confined to traditional roles. In times of crisis, women of extraordinary courage and intellect could rise to meet the challenge, becoming the driving force behind national liberation and dynastic renewal. She was a true architect of victory, a powerful ruler from the shadows, a testament to the enduring power of the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. In the grand temples of Ammonius-Re, the king of the gods, at Karnak and Luxor, a select group of royal women held prestigious positions as priestesses, often referred to as God's wife of Ammonius, or divine adoratress of Ammonius. While these titles reached their zenith in the Third Intermediate Period, their roots stretched back to the New Kingdom, where royal daughters and wives played significant roles in the cult of Ammonius. Their power was a fascinating blend of religious authority, economic control, and political influence, subtly shaping the spiritual and temporal landscape of Egypt from the sacred shadows of the most powerful deity. You, observing the intricate rituals of the Ammonius cult, would see these women not just as participants, but as vital conduits of divine power. The role of royal women as priestesses of Ammonius Re was deeply intertwined with the political ambitions of the pharaohs. By integrating their daughters and wives into the powerful Ammonius priesthood, pharaohs sought to strengthen their control over this influential religious institution, which often rivaled the throne itself in terms of wealth and influence. This was a strategic move, ensuring that a loyal royal presence was always at the heart of the most important cult in Egypt. Imagine a young royal princess, perhaps the daughter of Thutmose III or Amenhotep II, being initiated into the priesthood of Ammonius. Her training would be rigorous, encompassing not only the complex rituals and hymns but also the vast administrative duties associated with the temple. She would learn to read and write, to understand the intricacies of temple economy, and to manage the vast resources of the god. This education would equip her with skills that extended far beyond the purely religious, making her a formidable figure in her own right. As a priestess of Ammonius, she would participate in the daily rituals of the god, entering the innermost sanctuaries, a privilege denied to most. She would purify the divine images, offer incense and libations, and chant the sacred texts. Her presence was believed to be particularly pleasing to Ammonius, ensuring his blessings upon Egypt and its pharaoh. These rituals were not passive, they were active engagements with the divine, through which the priestess channeled immense spiritual power. You would feel the profound sanctity of these moments, the palpable connection between the priestess and the god. Beyond the daily rites, these royal priestesses played a significant role in the grand festivals of Ammonius, such as the Opet festival or the Beautiful Festival of the Valley. They would lead processions, sing hymns, and play sacred instruments, captivating the crowds and reinforcing the divine legitimacy of the pharaoh. Their public appearances were carefully orchestrated, designed to showcase their spiritual authority and their connection to the royal house. The economic power wielded by these priestesses was substantial. The temples of Ammonius owned vast tracts of land, employed thousands of people, and controlled immense wealth in gold, silver, and precious commodities. As administrators within this complex system, royal priestesses often managed portions of these temple estates, overseeing agricultural production, collecting revenues, and directing the labor of temple workers. This economic leverage gave them considerable influence within Thebes and beyond. They could fund charitable projects, commission works of art, or even exert political pressure through their control of resources. Their titles such as Chief of the Harem of Ammonius, or Divine Adoratress, reflected their unique status. They were often depicted in temple reliefs and on their own funerary stelae in positions of honor, sometimes even performing rituals typically reserved for the pharaoh. Their names would occasionally be enclosed in cartouches, a rare privilege for non-pharaonic individuals, further emphasizing their semi-royal, semi-divine status. The role of these royal priestesses also had significant social implications. They were often highly educated and cultured women, serving as patrons of the arts and literature. Their residences within the temple precincts or nearby would have been centers of intellectual and artistic activity, attracting scribes, artists, and musicians. They contributed to the vibrant cultural life of Thebes, leaving behind a legacy of beautiful artifacts and inscriptions. Consider the example of the god's wife of Ammonius, during the New Kingdom. While not yet the semi-independent rulers they would become in the Third Intermediate Period, these women held immense spiritual and symbolic power. Their connection to Ammonius was seen as a vital component of the pharaoh's own legitimacy, a divine endorsement of his rule. They were the spiritual consorts of the god, ensuring the flow of divine blessings to the land. The position also served as a means for pharaohs to control potentially ambitious royal women. By dedicating them to the service of Ammonius, their energies and talents were channeled into a religious sphere, rather than allowing them to become rivals for political power. However, as history shows, this strategy often backfired, with the gods' wives eventually accumulating immense temporal power. The priestesses of Ammonius Re, these sacred daughters of Egypt, were powerful figures who navigated the complex interplay of religion, politics, and economics. They ruled not with swords or scepters, but with sistra and hymns. Their authority derived from their divine connection and their astute management of temple resources. Their influence, though often subtle, was profound, shaping the spiritual landscape and contributing to the political stability of the new kingdom. You, reflecting on their lives, would understand that their power was deeply rooted in the Egyptian belief system, a testament to the reverence accorded to female divinity and the women who embodied it. They were the silent guardians of the divine order, the powerful administrators of sacred wealth, a true testament to the enduring power of the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. The Middle Kingdom, often heralded as a classical age of Egyptian literature, art, and administrative efficiency, saw a resurgence of strong central authority after the chaos of the First Intermediate Period. Pharaohs like Senusret III and Amenemhat III projected an image of absolute power. Yet, behind the facades of imposing fortresses and intricate pyramids, the royal wives of the Middle Kingdom wielded a subtle, yet significant power, acting as pillars of dynastic stability, cultural patrons, and sometimes even political advisors. Their influence was less overt than their New Kingdom counterparts, often operating within the strictures of tradition, but it was nonetheless profound, shaping the destiny of the kingdom from the shadows of the royal court. You, observing the refined court of the Middle Kingdom, would sense the quiet authority radiating from the queen's apartments. Unlike the New Kingdom, where queens often held grand titles and appeared prominently on monuments, Middle Kingdom queens were generally depicted more modestly, their names and images less frequently monumentalized. This, however, should not be mistaken for a lack of power. Their influence was simply exercised in a different, more subdued, yet equally effective manner. The primary role of a royal wife was to ensure the continuity of the royal lineage, bearing sons who would secure the succession. But beyond this biological imperative, she was the matriarch of the royal household, managing the vast domestic staff, overseeing the education of the royal children, and maintaining the intricate social order of the palace. This was a position of immense responsibility and considerable administrative skill. Imagine a queen like Neferupta, daughter of Amenemhat III. While her burial in a separate pyramid at Hawara might suggest an unusual status, her primary influence would have been within the confines of the court. She would have been responsible for maintaining the decorum and stability of the royal family, a crucial task in an era where dynastic disputes could easily destabilize the kingdom. She would have been a calming presence, a source of wisdom and stability for her husband and her children. The royal wives were often patrons of the arts and crafts, commissioning exquisite jewelry, statuettes, and funerary goods. The dazzling treasures found in the tombs of Middle Kingdom princesses and queens, such as those at Dashur and Lahan, attest to their immense wealth and their sophisticated taste. These weren't just personal adornments, they were statements of royal power and cultural refinement, reflecting the prestige of the dynasty. You, gazing upon a shimmering pectoral from the tomb of Princess Sidhathiunit, would understand the profound artistic and economic power these women commanded. Their influence also extended to religious life. Royal wives often held titles like King's Wife, Beloved of Hathor, or Priestess of Hathor, connecting them to the divine feminine and granting them spiritual authority. They would participate in religious ceremonies, offer prayers for the pharaoh and the kingdom, and serve as role models for piety and devotion. This spiritual role reinforced their legitimacy and their importance to the well-being of the realm. Crucially, royal wives often served as confidants and advisors to their pharaohs. In the privacy of the royal apartments, away from the formal court, the pharaoh could discuss matters of state, seek counsel, and find emotional support. The queen, with her intimate knowledge of court politics, family dynamics, and the temperament of key officials, could offer invaluable insights and strategic advice. Her influence here was subtle, a whisper in the ear, but it could sway decisions of immense consequence. The power of the king's mother, as discussed previously, was particularly potent in the Middle Kingdom. Queens like Sobenferu, who eventually ruled as pharaoh, moving beyond the shadows, while not always explicitly powerful in their roles as wives, gained immense authority once their sons ascended the throne. Their influence in shaping the future pharaohs, as seen in the royal nursery, was foundational. The Middle Kingdom also saw a deliberate effort by pharaohs to project an image of a stable, unified family, with the queen playing a central role in this propaganda. Reliefs and inscriptions, though less frequent than in later periods, would depict the pharaoh and his wife together, symbolizing harmony and continuity. This was a subtle way of reinforcing the legitimacy of the dynasty through the strength of its royal family. The tombs of Middle Kingdom royal women, though often smaller than those of pharaohs, were still elaborate and richly furnished, indicating their high status and the resources dedicated to their afterlife. These tombs were not just resting places. They were statements of enduring power and royal identity, designed to ensure the queen's eternal well-being and her continued connection to the divine. The Middle Kingdom royal wives, though often operating behind the scenes, were essential to the stability and cultural flourishing of their era. They were the silent administrators of the royal household, the discerning patrons of art, the spiritual guardians, and the trusted confidants of their pharaohs. Their power was a testament to the enduring influence of women who, within the strictures of their time, found ways to shape the destiny of Egypt. You, reflecting on their quiet strength, would understand that power is not always loud or overt. Sometimes, it is the steady, unwavering hand that guides from the shadows, the discerning eye that sees beyond the immediate, the nurturing presence that ensures continuity. The royal wives of the Middle Kingdom, though often less visible in the grand narratives, were true rulers from the shadows, a testament to the enduring power of the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. As the golden age of pharaonic Egypt waned, a new dynasty, the Ptolemies, Hellenistic descendants of Alexander the Great's general, seized control. This was a world of ruthless ambition, political intrigue, and sibling rivalries, where power was often brutally seized and maintained. In this treacherous landscape, Arsinoe II, a queen of extraordinary intelligence, cunning, and unyielding will, emerged as a dominant force, her shadow stretching far beyond the throne. She was not just a queen, she was a master manipulator, a strategic genius, and a powerful ruler who navigated a serpentine court with lethal precision. You, a courtier in the opulent yet dangerous Ptolemaic Alexandria, would feel the chilling undercurrents of her power, knowing that one wrong move could mean your demise. Arsinoe II's life was a saga of ambition, incest, and power plays, a testament to the brutal realities of Hellenistic royalty. Born a princess, daughter of Ptolemy I Soter, the founder of the Ptolemaic dynasty, she was first married to Lysimachus, king of Thrace, a man twice her age. In Thrace, she quickly asserted her influence, securing the succession for her own sons and ruthlessly eliminating rivals. She was a queen who knew how to survive and thrive in a cutthroat world. Upon Lysimachus's death and the subsequent chaos, Arsinoe returned to Egypt, a widow with a fierce determination to reclaim her destiny. Here, she embarked on a series of unprecedented marriages, each a calculated step in her ascent to ultimate power. First, she married her half-brother, Ptolemy Keranos, who had murdered her husband and two of her sons. This was a marriage of pure political convenience, a temporary alliance to secure her position. But Arsinoe, ever the survivor, quickly realized his treachery and fled, narrowly escaping his clutches. Her most audacious move was yet to come. Back in Egypt, she married her full brother, Ptolemy II Philadelphus. While incestuous marriages were common among Egyptian pharaohs, this was a shocking departure for the Greek Ptolemies, though it was carefully legitimized by aligning it with ancient Egyptian traditions. This marriage, however, was not one of love, but of pure power. Ptolemy II was a scholarly, less assertive ruler, and Arsinoe, with her sharp intellect and political acumen, quickly dominated the court. She was not content to be a mere consort. Arsinoe too became a de facto co-regent, her name appearing on coins, her image carved into statues alongside her brother-husband. She held her own court, issued decrees, and wielded immense influence over all matters of state. She was the driving force behind many of Ptolemy II's policies, particularly in foreign affairs. You would see her presiding over diplomatic meetings, her eyes sharp, her mind assessing every word, every gesture, her presence commanding more respect than many kings. Her political genius was evident in her foreign policy. She actively pursued an aggressive expansionist agenda, securing Egypt's borders, expanding its maritime trade, and establishing a formidable naval presence in the Mediterranean. She masterminded alliances, instigated wars, and strategically married off her daughters to foreign kings, all to enhance Egypt's power and her own influence. She was a queen who understood the brutal realities of international power politics and played the game with ruthless efficiency. But Arsinoe's power was also rooted in her religious and cultural influence. She carefully cultivated her image as a divine queen, aligning herself with Egyptian goddesses like Isis and Hathor. Ptolemy II, under her influence, declared her Thea Adelphoi, goddess sister, further elevating her status to divine. She was given her own cult, with temples and priests dedicated to her worship, a testament to her unprecedented power. This deification, while seemingly religious, was a brilliant political move, reinforcing her legitimacy and making any challenge to her authority an act of sacrilege. You would witness the elaborate festivals in her honor, the fervent worship, understanding that this was not just piety, but a calculated projection of power. Her shadow extended over every aspect of the court. She controlled access to the pharaoh, influenced appointments, and ensured that loyalists filled key positions. Her network of spies and informants was legendary, allowing her to stay one step ahead of any potential rivals or conspirators. Opponents who dared to challenge her often met mysterious fates, a chilling testament to her ruthlessness. It was whispered that she had a hand in the death of Ptolemy II's first wife, Arsinoe I, who was exiled on false charges of conspiracy. Arsinoe II transformed the role of the Ptolemaic queen, setting a precedent for future powerful female rulers like Cleopatra VII. She demonstrated that a woman, through sheer force of will, political acumen, and a willingness to engage in ruthless power plays, could dominate a kingdom. Her influence was so profound that even after her death, Ptolemy II continued to honor her, initiating the Arsinoe festival and naming cities and regions after her. Her legacy is complex. A brilliant strategist, a ruthless manipulator, a queen who redefined female power in the Hellenistic world. She was a ruler who operated not just from the shadows, but often directly from the throne, yet her methods were always those of a master puppeteer, pulling strings, shaping events, and ensuring her dominance through cunning and intellect rather than overt military might. You, reflecting on the life of Arsinoe II, would understand that power is not always benevolent or just. Sometimes, it is a sharp, glittering thing, wielded with cold precision by those who dare to seize it. Arsinoe II was a queen who understood this truth implicitly, a serpent queen who coiled herself around the throne, controlling the destiny of Egypt from the shadows, a testament to the enduring power of the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. In the turbulent world of the Hellenistic kingdoms, where dynastic marriages were political chess moves and alliances shifted like desert sands, Berenice II of Cyrene and Egypt carved out a unique legacy. Known for her beauty, her courage, and a legendary act of sacrifice that saw her hair transformed into a constellation, Berenice was more than just a royal consort. She was a queen who leveraged her personal narrative, her intelligence, and her strategic marriage to subtly influence the Ptolemaic court, becoming a beloved figure whose power radiated from her popular appeal and her quiet wisdom. You, a citizen of Alexandria during her reign, would feel the warmth of her presence, a stark contrast to the often ruthless politics of the dynasty. Berenice's story began in Cyrene, a Greek city-state in North Africa. She was the daughter of King Meges of Cyrene and Queen Apama, and her early life was marked by political intrigue. Her father had broken away from the Ptolemaic Empire, and her marriage was a crucial political pawn. She was initially betrothed to Demetrius the Fair, a Macedonian prince, but upon his arrival her mother, Apama, became his lover and helped him seize control of Cyrene. Berenice, with a fierce determination that hinted at her future strength, orchestrated Demetrius's assassination and reclaimed her city. This early act of decisive leadership revealed a queen unafraid to act when her kingdom was threatened. Her strategic marriage to her cousin, Ptolemy III Euergetes, the king of Egypt, was a pivotal moment. This union reunited Cyrene with the Ptolemaic Empire, ending a long period of separation and solidifying Ptolemaic power in the region. Berenice arrived in Alexandria not just as a bride, but as a queen who had already proven her mettle, earning respect and admiration. Unlike some of her predecessors, Berenice cultivated an image of both strength and piety. She was a devoted wife and mother, but also a patron of learning and the arts. Her presence brought a sense of stability and grace to the often volatile Ptolemaic court. She was beloved by the people, who saw in her a queen who genuinely cared for their well-being. This popular appeal was a powerful, albeit subtle, form of influence, allowing her to sway public opinion and reinforce the legitimacy of her husband's rule. You would hear the murmurs of affection for her in the marketplaces, a powerful testament to her personal charisma. Her most famous legend, the Coma Berenices, Berenice's hair, constellation, is a beautiful illustration of her profound spiritual and cultural influence. When Ptolemy III embarked on a dangerous military campaign in Syria, Berenice, fearing for his safety, made a sacred vow to sacrifice her beautiful long hair to the gods if he returned victorious. Upon his successful return, she fulfilled her vow, placing her shorn locks in the temple of Aphrodite Zephyraitis. Legend has it that the hair disappeared overnight, spirited away by the gods and placed in the heavens as a new constellation, a testament to her piety and devotion. This story, immortalized by the poet Callimachus and later by Catullus, was more than just a romantic tale. It was a brilliant piece of propaganda, skillfully crafted to elevate Berenice to divine status, connecting her directly to the cosmos. It portrayed her as a queen whose personal sacrifice was so profound that it touched the gods themselves. This divine association, while not leading to direct rule, significantly enhanced her prestige and influence within the court and among the populace. She became a living legend, a queen whose devotion was literally written in the stars. You, looking up at the night sky, would see her sacrifice immortalized, understanding the profound impact of her story. Berenice was also a patron of learning and philosophy, reflecting the intellectual vibrancy of Alexandria, the hub of Hellenistic scholarship. She supported scholars, poets, and scientists, fostering an environment of intellectual growth. Her court would have been a center for lively discussions, attracting the greatest minds of the ancient world. This intellectual patronage, while seemingly cultural, was a subtle way of projecting Ptolemaic power and prestige, establishing Egypt as a beacon of civilization. Her influence on Ptolemy III was considerable. He clearly respected her intelligence and sought her counsel. While he was the active ruler, making strategic decisions and leading military campaigns, Berenice would have been his trusted confidant, offering advice in private, tempering his impulses and ensuring the smooth functioning of the royal household. Her role was that of a wise partner, a steady hand guiding the pharaoh from the shadows of their shared life. As a queen, Berenice also played a crucial role in maintaining the dynastic line, bearing several children, including the future Ptolemy IV. Her dedication to her family and her lineage was unwavering, ensuring the continuity of the Ptolemaic dynasty. Sadly, Berenice's life ended tragically. After Ptolemy III's death, her son Ptolemy IV Philopator proved to be a weak and dissolute ruler, heavily influenced by ambitious courtiers. These courtiers, fearing Berenice's wisdom and influence, conspired against her. She was murdered by order of her own son, a tragic end for a queen who had dedicated her life to the stability and prosperity of Egypt. Despite her tragic demise, Berenice II's legacy endures. She was a queen who, through her courage, her piety, her popular appeal, and her strategic intelligence, wielded a unique form of power. Her legendary sacrifice, immortalized in the stars, cemented her place in history as a beloved and revered figure. She ruled not through direct command, but through the subtle influence of her character, her wisdom, and her profound connection to her people and the divine. You, remembering her story, would recognize her as a queen whose power radiated from her very being, a testament to the enduring power of the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. In the tumultuous mid-2nd century BCE, the Ptolemaic dynasty was often plagued by internal strife, regencies, and the constant threat of Roman intervention. It was during this period that Cleopatra I Syra, a Seleucid princess who married into the Ptolemaic royal house, emerged as a figure of remarkable strength and political acumen. As regent for her young son, Ptolemy VI Philometor, she skillfully navigated a treacherous political landscape, maintaining peace with her birth kingdom and ensuring the stability of Egypt, all while wielding immense power from behind the vulnerable throne of a child king. You, observing the precarious political climate of Alexandria, would recognize Cleopatra I as a queen whose quiet diplomacy and firm hand averted catastrophe. Cleopatra I's arrival in Egypt was itself a monumental political event. She was the daughter of the powerful Seleucid king Antiochus III the Great, Egypt's traditional rival. Her marriage to Ptolemy V Epiphanes was part of a peace treaty, a strategic alliance designed to end decades of conflict between the two Hellenistic superpowers. This union therefore brought with it a complex web of loyalties and potential conflicts of interest. Cleopatra was both a Ptolemaic queen and a Seleucid princess, a bridge between two often antagonistic kingdoms. Upon Ptolemy V's premature death, Cleopatra I found herself in a position of immense responsibility. Her son, Ptolemy VI Philometor, was a mere child, too young to rule. The stability of Egypt, and indeed the delicate balance of power in the eastern Mediterranean, rested squarely on her shoulders. She immediately assumed the regency, becoming the de facto ruler of Egypt. Her primary challenge was to maintain peace with the Seleucid Empire, her birth kingdom. Many in the Ptolemaic court would have advocated for a resumption of hostilities, seeking to reclaim lost territories. However, Cleopatra, with her intimate knowledge of Seleucid politics and her personal ties to the ruling family, understood the dangers of such a move. She pursued a policy of cautious diplomacy, maintaining friendly relations with her brother, Seleucus IV Philopator, and later with Antiochus IV Epiphanes, her other brother. This was a crucial decision that prevented a costly war and allowed Egypt to focus on internal stability. You would feel the immense pressure on her, knowing that a single misstep could plunge Egypt into another devastating conflict. Cleopatra was not merely a figurehead regent. She actively governed, issuing decrees in her son's name but with her own authority. She managed the royal finances, oversaw the vast bureaucracy, and maintained order within the often turbulent court of Alexandria. Her rule was characterized by prudence and a firm hand, ensuring that the ship of state remained steady amidst the political currents. Her strong leadership was recognized by her contemporaries. The historian Polybius, though often critical of Ptolemaic rulers, spoke positively of Cleopatra I's reign, noting the stability and prosperity that characterized her regency. This was a testament to her administrative skills and her political acumen. She was a queen who understood the mechanics of governance and was unafraid to wield executive power. Within the court, Cleopatra I carefully navigated the treacherous waters of Ptolemaic politics. She would have relied on a network of loyal advisors and officials, but her ultimate authority was unquestioned. She would have had to contend with ambitious courtiers, disgruntled generals, and the ever-present threat of Roman interference. Her ability to maintain stability and prevent internal power struggles during her regency speaks volumes about her strength and her strategic brilliance. Her influence also extended to the religious sphere. As queen, she would have participated in traditional Egyptian rituals, connecting herself to the ancient pharaonic traditions and further legitimizing her rule in the eyes of the native Egyptian populace. This dual approach, maintaining Hellenistic governance while respecting Egyptian customs, was a hallmark of successful Ptolemaic rule, and Cleopatra I excelled at it. You would see her in traditional Egyptian regalia, participating in sacred ceremonies, a powerful symbol of continuity. Cleopatra I's death, around 176 BCE, marked a turning point. Without her steady hand, the fragile peace she had meticulously maintained quickly unraveled. Ptolemy VI, still young, fell under the influence of ambitious advisors who immediately launched a war against the Seleucid Empire, initiating the disastrous Sixth Syrian War. This conflict, which saw Antiochus IV Epiphanes invade Egypt and nearly conquer it, proved the wisdom of Cleopatra I's diplomatic approach and the immense void left by her passing. Her legacy is one of quiet strength, strategic foresight, and effective governance. She was a queen who, despite being a foreign princess, embraced her role as regent of Egypt and steered the kingdom through a perilous period. She ruled from the shadows of her child king, but her decisions had a profound and lasting impact on the stability of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the broader geopolitical landscape of the Hellenistic world. You, reflecting on the life of Cleopatra I Syra, would understand that true power is not always about conquest or grand pronouncements. Sometimes, it is about the quiet, unwavering resolve to maintain peace, to administer justly, and to protect a vulnerable throne. She was a guardian queen, a silent architect of stability, a testament to the enduring power of the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. Beyond the individual narratives of powerful queens, there existed a more collective, yet equally profound form of female influence in ancient Egypt: the role of royal mothers and grandmothers as the ultimate architects of dynastic continuity. These women, often operating entirely from the shadows of their private apartments, were the custodians of the royal bloodline, the shapers of future pharaohs, and the silent guarantors of the kingdom's stability. Their power was not about direct rule, but about the meticulous planning, the careful nurturing, and sometimes, the ruthless maneuvering required to ensure that the right heir sat on the throne. You, a witness to the inner workings of the royal family, would understand that the future of Egypt often rested on the decisions made by these unseen hands. The concept of the king's mother was paramount as we've explored, but the influence extended further back, to grandmothers and even great-grandmothers, whose legacies and bloodlines imbued subsequent generations with legitimacy. These women represented the ancestral wisdom, the unbroken chain of divine succession that gave the pharaoh his authority. Consider a queen mother, tasked with ensuring her son's succession. Her role began long before the pharaoh's death. She would carefully observe her sons, discerning their strengths and weaknesses, subtly guiding their education and their alliances. She might favor one son over another, not out of mere affection, but based on her assessment of who would be the most capable ruler and who would best secure the dynasty. Her subtle influence could shape the pharaoh's choice of heir, even if he had multiple eligible sons. Imagine Queen Teti Sheri, a grandmother in the late 17th dynasty, a period of intense struggle against the Hyksos. Though not of pure royal blood herself, she was the matriarch of a family that would produce the liberators of Egypt. She was the mother of Seqenenra II, the grandmother of Chamos and Amos I. Her image, often depicted as a revered elder, would have been a powerful symbol of continuity and resilience. She would have instilled in her grandsons the fierce determination to expel the foreign invaders, passing down the legacy of resistance. Her power was not in commanding armies, but in forging the spirit of those who would. You would see the respect in the eyes of her grandsons, knowing that her wisdom guided their every move. The royal mothers and grandmothers were also crucial in arranging strategic marriages for their sons and grandsons. These marriages were rarely about love. They were about forging alliances, consolidating power, and ensuring the purity of the royal bloodline. The matriarch would carefully vet potential brides, considering their lineage, their family's political connections, and their suitability to bear royal heirs. Her decisions in these matters could have profound geopolitical consequences, shaping the alliances and rivalries of Egypt for generations. Their role in the royal nursery, as discussed earlier, was foundational. They oversaw the upbringing of future pharaohs, instilling in them the values of kingship, the reverence for the gods, and the understanding of their divine destiny. They ensured that the royal children were educated in the traditions of Egypt, prepared for the immense responsibilities that awaited them. This was a long-term investment in the future of the dynasty, a silent labor of love and duty. In times of crisis, when the royal line was threatened, the matriarchs often stepped into the breach, acting as regents or providing the necessary legitimacy for a new king. They were the anchors in the storm, the unwavering presence that ensured the continuity of the divine institution of kingship. Their very existence was a statement of dynastic strength and resilience. Sometimes their influence was more direct, bordering on political manipulation, though always from the shadows. They might use their network of loyalists within the palace, the wet nurses, the chamberlains, the chief stewardesses, to gather information, to sway opinions, or even to subtly undermine rivals. Their power lay in their intimate knowledge of the court, their access to the pharaoh, and their ability to operate without the overt scrutiny that male officials often faced. The divine adoratresses of Ammonius, in the Third Intermediate Period, often royal princesses adopted by their predecessors, were a clear example of royal mothers, or grandmothers, through their influence in selecting the next adoratress, ensuring dynastic continuity through a female line. By placing their daughters in this powerful religious office, they secured a loyal and influential presence in Thebes, preserving a form of royal authority even amidst political fragmentation. This was a strategic move to ensure that even if the pharaoh's direct rule was weakened, the royal bloodline maintained a powerful presence. The tombs of these royal mothers and grandmothers, though sometimes overshadowed by the pharaohs, were still magnificent, reflecting their immense status and the reverence accorded to them. Their funerary inscriptions often highlighted their role in bearing and raising kings, emphasizing their contribution to the eternal continuity of Egypt. You, looking at the long sweep of Egyptian history, would realize that the stability and longevity of its dynasties were not solely due to the strength of its pharaohs, but also to the unwavering dedication and strategic foresight of its royal women. These mothers and grandmothers, operating from the deepest shadows of the palace, were the silent architects of dynastic continuity, the custodians of the royal bloodline, and the ultimate guarantors of Egypt's enduring legacy. Their power, though often unseen, was foundational, a testament to the enduring power of the women who ruled Egypt from the shadows. The sun sets over the timeless sands of Egypt, casting long, dramatic shadows across the ancient monuments that stand as silent witnesses to millennia of history. We have journeyed through the lives of queens, priestesses, regents, and mothers of women who, from the veiled confines of the palace, the sacred precincts of the temple, or the intimate spaces of the royal nursery, wielded immense power. Their stories, often obscured by the grand narratives of pharaohs and conquerors, are the enduring echoes of a different kind of rule, a testament to the profound and often subtle influence of women who shaped the destiny of an empire from the shadows. You, having walked through these hidden corridors of power, must now reflect on the profound and lasting legacy they left behind. These women were the architects of succession, ensuring the continuity of the divine lineage when the throne lay vulnerable. They were the strategists who navigated treacherous political landscapes, forging alliances, averting wars, and maintaining stability during times of profound crisis. They were the spiritual guardians, connecting the mortal realm to the divine, ensuring the blessings of the gods upon Egypt. They were the cultural patrons, fostering art, literature, and intellectual life, enriching the very fabric of Egyptian civilization. And, perhaps most powerfully, they were the nurturers of future pharaohs, shaping the minds and characters of the boys who would one day command an empire. Their power was rarely overt. It was a power of persuasion, of influence, of strategic foresight, and of unwavering resolve. It was exercised through whispered counsel in the royal chambers, through the careful selection of trusted advisors, through the management of vast economic resources, and through the profound spiritual authority they commanded. They understood that true power was not always loud or visible. Sometimes, it was a quiet, persistent force, a subtle redirection of the currents of history. Consider the contrast between the fleeting glory of a military victory and the enduring impact of a queen mother who secured a dynasty for centuries. Think of the temporary triumph of a pharaoh's decree versus the lasting stability brought by a regent queen who maintained peace. The women who ruled from the shadows understood this fundamental truth, that long-term influence often triumphs over short-term spectacle. Their struggles were immense. They faced the constant threat of political intrigue, the pressures of dynastic expectations, and often, the tragic loss of their loved ones. Yet they persevered, driven by a fierce loyalty to Egypt, a profound sense of duty, and an unyielding will to protect their lineage and their people. Their stories are not just tales of power, but of human struggle, resilience, and courage in the face of daunting odds. The legacy of these women is etched not just in the historical records that occasionally grant them a glimpse, but in the very character of ancient Egypt itself. The stability of its institutions, the richness of its culture, the continuity of its divine kingship, all bear the indelible imprint of their unseen hands. They were the bedrock upon which the pharaohs stood, the silent pillars that supported the grandeur of an empire. As you step back from this journey into the shadows, are left with a deeper understanding of what it truly means to rule. It is not just about crowns and scepters, but about intellect, charisma, resilience, and the profound ability to influence, guide, and shape. The women who ruled Egypt from the shadows remind us that history is often written by those who stand in the light, but it is profoundly shaped by those who work in the dark, their impact no less significant for being unseen. Their echoes resonate even today, reminding us that female leadership in its myriad forms has always been a powerful force, even in societies that often sought to confine it. They challenge our conventional notions of power, urging us to look beyond the obvious, to seek out the subtle currents and the hidden strengths that truly drive the course of human events. They were the silent queens, the unseen regents, the powerful priestesses, the wise mothers, women who, from the shadows, held the fate of Egypt in their hands, their legacy an enduring testament to the women who truly ruled Egypt from the shadows. Their stories are a haunting resolution, a final, emotional climax that reveals the true depth and breadth of female power in the ancient world.